Okay. I think we got it worked out now. So we just increased the bit rate to that 23,500. It should be better quality, hopefully. At least it won't be like it would have been low quality before, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, we've got the 6800 here, and we're going to, well, I just got to double check that this is actually working. Let's double check YouTube really quick. If I go to my channel, yeah, it looks like it's streaming. Okay, that's good. Just had to be sure. All right, we're going to undo some more of the screws from the back plate here, or the intermediate cooler. Nice, thanks Codestring. I think that explains the excuse me, the issues I was having when I was at the LAN party too, with the bit rate. I wonder if it like auto lowered when it was using the integrated video. I didn't do like a live stream for you guys while I was there. I did make some recordings of the thermal putty jobs I was doing on people's video cards, including my 3090. And there was like video glitches, but I was like recording and streaming at the same time using the integrated video adapters, and I was still doing like 4K 30. I don't know, I just, yeah, switching from integrated back to the full-fledged running on the 3090. Some of the settings must not have got correctly set up when I made the switch back, so that's my best guess. Okay, so I've got all of the screws. Ooh, not quite. We've got to do the I/O bracket. Just two of them, looks like. Okay, that's got a bit of play there with the Phillips, so I'm going to try... Well, that was the JIS. Let's go to the Phillips here. Seems to work okay. Okay, so, good times. We are going to, this card's so big, I gotta zoom out here. This is a beast of a card. So we're gonna save this putty. Nice. Previously, this card had been in a typical open-air mining frame, which has got the cards, it was on a, let's see, ETC S37, something like that. It was like an 8-card riserless motherboard with like 65mm spacing, I believe. They're really close together. There was only a 1/4 inch between the cards. Maybe 3/8. So it was toasty in there. That's for sure. Well, it's got, looks like 2 fan headers here. It's kind of neat. Fate, hey, how's it going? Long time no see. Ooh, X mining card. Did you get a good deal on it? I did. I don't even know what's a good deal anymore. I bought this. I'm trying to think. It would have been last year. I want to say it was like anywhere from like 12 to 18 months ago. I can't remember when I bought this. I bought 2 cards at the same time from the same seller. They were definitely mined on by them as well. I mean, they said they didn't, but okay, like if you're buying, guys, if you're buying, this is a used card. If you're buying a used 6000 series or NVIDIA 3000 series, and the person tries to tell you that they didn't mine on it, take that with a grain of salt. I'm sure there are definitely some cards that people have sold and they've said that and they're telling the truth, right? There's definitely that exists. But I'm just letting you know, like, more often than not, those generations of cards, especially 3070s, 3060 Ti's, 3080s, 3090s, 6800s, whether they were XT or not, and 6600s, XTs and non-XTs, those are like high probability, if you buy them used, that they were mined on. It's honestly fine for most cards, to be honest. I said honest there twice. Does that cancel out? I don't know. The memory on most of the cards was kept fairly cool because it was profitable to keep it cool. Does that make sense? Like, you could do better memory overclocks if the memory was like cool and stable as opposed to hot and like throttling or unstable. Like the last thing any miner wanted was the computer to crash while they were sleeping and be down for 8 hours and miss out on like $30 or something like that, between like a bunch of cards or sometimes more. So yeah, just most used cards of a certain era are probably mined on, in my humble opinion. Okay, let's actually do something with the card instead of just talking. That's a good idea, right? Let's clean up the intermediate plate here. Okay, for a second there, I was like, is this plastic? It's not. It's, seems to be aluminum. It's just fairly flexible, but it is very thin, so that makes sense. There's definitely cards out there with plastic back plates that really hinder your ability to do additional like backside cooling. Plus, it's just more flimsy. I would much prefer metal back plates on all cards. Hey, Fade, how's it going? Yeah, mine are here. Well, 95% of my cards are still working fine. I do have my fair share of cards that died. Yes, we do try to keep the best VRAM and core temps cool and undervolt the card. 100%, like... And if anyone's, like, from the gaming side that's not super familiar with mining, it was not profitable or, like, temperature stable to run the card full tilt. On the core at least. we had some like pretty standard issue overclocks that most people used. You know, plus 1200 in Windows, plus 1200 to the memory. Linux plus 2400 was the same thing. You know, some of mine I was going much higher than that, like significantly higher, and it just depended on how cool the VRAM was, and the VRM for the VRAM. But the cores, we were running as cool as possible. We had to. We'd be running, like, starting off, I don't think many people that started in mining all of a sudden went to server power supplies, so we were rocking, you know, EVGA 1600 watt power supplies, and we had to get it so that you could run as many cards on one power supply as possible and stay underneath the 80% rule, which is 80% of the rated TDP of that power supply, the output. We were calculating 80% based on the 15 amp wall socket, not wanting to go over that. So you can't plug like multiple rigs that are drawing tons of power on the same circuit. All sorts of stuff like that. So, and it was just unprofitable to have it running like hotter than need be and like cards sandwiched right together. So you want them all as cool as possible. Because if they're 3080s and you're pulling like 250 watts times 8, so you got 2000 watts, you're pulling from two different power supplies with the jumper cable between, to get them both going, or you were on server power supplies, those 1200 watt if you're on 240 volt, which lots of people started going to. But yeah, it was the cards were definitely undervolted. We were trying to make them run them as cool as possible, and that way they would run faster, more stable, not crash. Cost us a bit less in electricity because electricity was expensive, and yeah, it was just overall better to run them cool. So I can't remember if this had pads from factory. I'll have to take a look back on the video where I tore it down in the first place. I think it might have, but I've just got putty on the backside here. We'll probably put putty on the backside again like this, because why not? This helps with a bit of cooling. But yeah, this card was sandwiched pretty close, and I mined quite a few different algorithms, but definitely some Kapow and some Dynex solve, some Pyron hash, some fish hash. We mined a little bit of everything. And now it's going to do what most would consider more honest work. So, oh shoot, I have like totally not caught up with the chat. TL Spitz, how's it going? Good to see you. Fate says my cards that died are the BIOS modded 5700. Yeah, and 5600 XTs, 16800 managed to RMA it, and 1660 Super. I think those supers were doing what, 30 mega hash? I can't quite remember. Let's just zoom out here. It's probably easier to watch. Yeah, this stuff's good. So this is one way you can get like little bits picked up, is you just take this ball and you sort of gently mash it against the back of the card and pick up the little tidbits of putty that wanted to stick to the tiny components. Doesn't always work, depending on how close the components are, but works a bunch of the time. Okay, that's pretty much that. We're going to give it a good scrub too. Sometimes it's just fun to play with putty. TL Spitz, can't wait to see how Testbench 3 turns out. Yeah, it's good, kind of exciting. My personal life right now is kind of busy with having a new baby at home, so it's been difficult to pull away from that, or like justify pulling away from that, because obviously I want to be involved with my my kiddos, my daughter included. So that's been a big part of the last couple weeks, really. Okay, let's get a toothbrush going here. We're gonna go with the Oral-B. There you go. Declone says, I got a 6650 XT without a backplate, and it runs 95 on hotspot. Even after PTM U6 Pro, any advice? So what more I can do? Without a backplate, and it runs 95 on the hotspot. That is quite hot for a 6650. Now, is that in a case, I wonder? I guess I'm just going to ask like the standard questions I normally ask with phase change and putty. Like, when you assemble the card, you got to press down, you got to do the burn-in, get it warm for at least 2 hours. 80 Celsius is nice to get it melted. You've probably already got it to that temperature. But then I'd advise taking the card back out, turning it off, obviously, and pressing back down and seeing if you can get it to compress, the putty a little bit, just in case. I don't know how much putty you've got, but I've certainly been bad in the past for using too much putty. It happens. It happened a lot to me, and there's people. Some of you guys were telling me that I was using too much, and I was bad at listening initially. So I'm listening now for sure. Like initially, when people were like, "How much putty do I need for a laptop, like a gaming laptop?" and I'd be like, "Oh, you need, 30 to 40." That was just a few months ago that I was believing that, and then I just sort of started seeing people like paying attention more. I guess there was certainly people posting, and I was probably just too busy to notice, but yeah, like 20 grams for a laptop is good. But that's just to say that I used to use too much. So I'd ask kind of like how much you used, if you feel you got good compression with the U6, or if you felt it was like holding you up in one way or another, then I would press down on it a bit and see if you can get it compressed a bit more. Also depends what algo you're running and what it's in, whether it's still in a mining rig chassis, what your ambient is like, whether you've got it in a server case or what have you. But if you're comparing it to the other cards, and if it seems higher than it is, then it should be, then there's definitely a few possibilities for it, like something being a bit off, for sure. I guess another thing would be, wherever you got the PTM from, whether you're confident it's the real stuff or a good chance of being the real stuff. Yeah, good call, Fate. 75, but the hotspot's 95. Is that with like a decent fan speed? I wonder. Cold plate pressure, lack of coverage, or lack of fan speed, airflow. But again, that just compares to the cards around it. Hotspots, multi-pressure, GPU die, tightening method. Solid advice, Fate. Man, thanks for covering for me while I was distracted cleaning a card. Team Putty represent. If you guys haven't checked out the Discord yet, and if you feel like joining a growing community there, then I recommend it. We're getting, I've set it up now so there's like a good spot to post your experiences with thermal putty, phase change, whatever, and in like a forum style channel. So it makes it a little bit easier to search for stuff. There's a format to follow to make it easier for future viewers. So you'll like list the device type, and then the things that you're applying to it, whether it's like putty, phase change, paste, liquid metal, that kind of stuff. There's little like tags you can use as well. And then when someone comes to the forum and they're like looking for advice on like a laptop and will want to see what other people have done, then they can easily find those posts with like pictures included and stuff. So yeah, just works out really well. And like, not everyone gets the first application of putty done perfectly. Sometimes it does take troubleshooting, and so I find it's easiest to troubleshoot when there's like back and forth communication, and even like pictures shared to kind of see what's what. Because I'm not always the best at describing things, and if people are just basing it on my words, if they don't like ask me what I mean, or if they just assume and then go with that understanding, they might get it wrong, which is no fault of theirs. It's just my inability to accurately convey what I'm trying to say sometimes, and then they'll not have the best application and wonder what's going on. Like sometimes it's the application, sometimes it's just having the patience to do a burn-in, which is hit or miss with depending on the person. We just had a recent I wouldn't say incident, but there was a certain person that was just like really unhappy with their laptop application, but seemed to have a decent video card application and then NVMe. Then they just sort of, yeah, I don't know, they got really angry about it. And then they made some claims that I'm not sure whether I can like trust as believable or not, but yeah, just because they were saying that the UTP-8 that they were using was getting really stiff, and the temperatures were terrible, and they had to take it all apart and change it out for something else after only 3 months. But I just don't think I believe that. I mean, we've got so many people that have used it for longer than that on like, similar devices, so I just don't see it. But hey, who knows? We will see in time whether UTP-8 stands the test of time. It's a pretty new product, so yeah. Let's see where we at with the chat here. Always got to make time for the kiddos. Excuse me. Yeah. Even if they start to feel lonely. I mean, my daughter's asleep right now, and then my wife is hanging out with the baby boy. So he mostly sleeps right now. He's not very old, so, but he's feeding and doing all the things he's supposed to be doing right now, so that's good. I was pretty fortunate with cards. that I mined on, I haven't had failures that were due to mining. And I certainly haven't broken any modern video cards, luckily. I did have two not water cooled, because it was like an AIO. I'd had two AMD R9 290Xs. I had four of them. I bought a few off of a friend that he mined on them for years, which was kind of crazy. He mined like Doge back in the day on them when it first came out. I guess it was like 6-7 years ago, something like that, when it was just a joke. I don't know, it still might be a joke, but so I bought them off him, and he had these like H110, I think that's what they were, AIOs, and I wanted to switch them back to the air coolers. So I took the AIOs off and cleaned the cards up completely, and then he had the coolers and I put the coolers back on the cards. But the PCB mounts so close to that card, and I didn't notice, but there was a couple areas that were supposed to be protected by what I now realize was Kapton tape, and I didn't know even what that was at the time. So yeah, I put the cards back together, I go to start them up, and pop, there was like a little component kind of in this relative area of that card. And then I was able to research and buy the component, and I tried to solder one myself, and it did not go good. I can't solder yet. Maybe someday. Like, I can do copper plumbing, no problem. I just can't solder electronics that are on of this scale, let's say. And the last time I was like semi-practiced, and that's a bit of a stretch, was probably grade 10 electronics class in high school. It's where we were like etching our own PCBs. We would, I think it was like a certain marker or something, we would like draw on them, and then we had to dip them in this tank for so long, pull them out. I think we reapplied the marker or some sort of like coating, and then you just had to like dip it until it melted away the copper. We just made really simple stuff, but that was the last time I was, and that was like large form electronics, so yeah, I'm just so out of practice. I'd like to get back into it. It'd be kind of cool, especially for, you know, redoing like an 8-pin connector or something like that. It would be really neat. Hey, Born Again, how's it going? Going to repaste and putty the water-blocked 4090 Strix. Ah, fellow Strix owner. How about that? What would be your best choice putty and paste for best cooling results? Okay, actually, so this is an interesting question. It's not an interesting question. Good question. How cold, or what are your VRAM temps on your Strix 4090, like your memory junction temperature? I only ask that, well, and you said, yeah, you're water blocked. So it's cold. You're gonna have VRAM or like memory junction temperatures in the 30 degrees Celsius, I'm assuming, if you use a really good cooling product on your VRAM. So I would use like a mid to higher end putty on the VRMs, I mean, you could pick whatever you want, really, and you wouldn't need much just for the VRMs. But for the VRAM, you actually want to use, this is going to sound crazy, you want to use like a lower performing putty on the VRAM if you're water blocking a 4090, which probably has gaps of what, 1 millimeter. If you were using pads, it'd be about, you know, one millimeter. Because if you want to overclock it, you want to keep your temperature for your memory around that, you know, 50 to 60, kind of closer to the 60 degrees Celsius mark. And obviously you're going to be focusing on cooling the core as much as possible, so you could do whatever you want there for overclocking headroom. But the VRAM, if you make it too cold, if it's like 30 Celsius, you're not going to be able to overclock it very well. I don't have personal experience with this. I'm just going off of what several users have noticed, and I believe they were linking posts to forums as well. But you could search that, like the cold bug for 40 series 2 gigabyte density GDDR6X. It doesn't want to be too cold. It needs the heat, as it were. So I wouldn't use like a top-end thermal putty, I don't think. You could also, and I want to experiment with this, but I need to get a couple things. I need to get probably a 4090 or similar and a water block. That's going to have to wait for a little while. But I want to experiment with water-cooled, or I could probably do it on a different card too, with small gaps, but water-cooled video card, using a top-end putty, and then using, you know how we'd like use copper shims and like putty on either side? Instead of that, capped on tape with putty on either side, and try varying thicknesses to basically decrease the cooling effect and tune the memory temperature to that 60 degrees. So soldering is all in the temperature, and rosin use definitely. And like when I eventually get some of those products, I'll be going off of a combination of folks' advice, either like Northridge Fix, Northwest Repair, those guys, because they've got and Soren, of course. Soren's solid dude, so I'd definitely see what he likes to use. And I mean, I'll probably go the good, budget-friendly, whatever those guys like. Rosin, flux, solder, probably the iron, hot air station. It's going to cost a bit. Hopefully I can get to the point where I can justify making that expense and then really like delving into learning. If you guys hadn't noticed, I like to learn stuff. I didn't know what thermal putty was, let's see, 4 years ago? So this has been a learning experience for me. And I'm still learning. And there's so many things I would like to know more about it. Like, I want to learn about gelling agents that are high temperature stable, compatible with silicone oil, and make a nice consistency for the putty. Because putties don't all have like that, what I would consider an ideal consistency. Some, even a lot of the top end ones, like I like that bubblegum feel to a thermal putty. And one of the putties that's got that going on was the original batch of CX H1300. And lately that hasn't been the case because they've had batch variance issues, where it's like stiffer, performs about 2 degrees worse on the ETC hash test. It's just not good. It's still good. It's not ideal that it's really stiff. I wouldn't recommend it for a first-time user that's going to be using it on a laptop at least, which sucks because it is by far one of the best budget or like price per gram putties out there. Still to this day, you can get 70 grams of CXH 1300 for like, what is it, like $11 to $15 Canadian, and like free shipping. How do you beat that? Except that right now it's been hit or miss with the batches, so that's the unfortunate part. Yeah. Well, we need this little brush. Where's that? This guy. That should work. Yeah, we'll try it. So we have a few things we want to do with this card before we test it out. We want to do the contact test we're going to do here in a moment. Then we'll see how that looks. But then I'm probably going to do some conformal coating, at least around the die, probably the edges of the die. So take a look at the cooler, but and around the VRAM for sure. I'll probably go out to here in this square with conformal. That should be decent protection, I'm thinking. We still have time to change the fans on the tower cooler. So if you guys have any advice for some 120 millimeter fans that you would recommend for a 2-fan tower cooler, let me know in the comments, whether it's the live chat or the after stream comments just on the video once it posts. But right now I've got a Peerless Assassin 120 SE, brand new, unopened. I could return it if I have to. I could buy something else. And I've also got a 3-pack of TL120, I'm assuming RGB fans. They're white, non-LCD. It's got the controller, it's got the splicing cable, so I can do a single fan and then use the splicing cable, control the other fan. That is the current plan, unless I hear a better suggestion. I don't need ultimate cooling performance. What I do need is consistency and longevity. We're going to be monitoring fan RPM for all the tests, so we'll be able to ensure to the best of our ability, like the quality of the cooling. We're also going to be monitoring that the case is a fractal torrent compact, which honestly I didn't have time to do a test fit with this card. If it doesn't fit, I'll go buy just the regular torrent, which is a little bit longer, the non-compact one, and we'll transplant the system into there if we have to. Hopefully we don't have to do that, because that's what, another 100, probably $200, I think. But that's the plan, because it's got really good linear flow. It's got those 2 large fans up front blowing through the entire case, exhausting excuse me, out the back of the case. Whereas Testbench 2 is open frame, so not as ideal. It was something like that. So don't worry, we're not going to turn the card on in its current state. We will be assembling it for the contact test. Oh yeah, magnet's still good, if it can hold that many screws. Well, that's a nice snug fit too on that screw, that's good. Let's get a couple screws started before we make them all tight. Not too tight, of course, just snug. Doesn't feel like it's perfectly lined up. It's very close. Let's see, Born Again, 24 core and almost 30 to 32 on rest. Yes, I remember the VRAM warmer. So the RAM chips to be less than the rest. Oh yeah, so your VRAM temperatures are probably cold, assuming. Like maybe around the 40. Like, I really want to recommend using capped on tape shims. Not even the tape, there's capped on sheet that doesn't have any adhesive. I'd go for that. I want to experiment with putty, capped on putty, because then you could buy one putty for the whole card, get it a top end one, whatever you want, put it on the VRAM, the VRM, make sure that's as like cold as possible, and then the VRAM you would basically use capped on shims and adjust it to the point where it's really the right temperature. Okay, I just realized what I'm doing here. That's wrong. Hey, you guys were supposed to catch this. I'm just kidding. I need to put the back plate on. Yeah, these are not supposed to go much further than what I had them. It's a good thing I didn't force any of them. We could have started galling the tip of the threads. TL Spit says Soren and Northwest Repair are some of the recommendations when it comes to YouTube channels to learn things, or two from, learn a thing or two from. And I would agree. Also, simply look up GPU Multimeters Stab Guide, and you'll find some helpful videos. Interesting. Thanks for that. That sounds like a useful search prompt to find more informations. This is very good. Okay. I'm doing this right now. It feels better already. Yeah. This is the way. Use the Kapton tape to lessen the cool. Yeah. Like basically the opposite of copper shims that we were doing on 3090s. The exact opposite. And I think it's not tape, but like Kapton film is the best way to go for that. It's high temperature stable, like extremely high temperature stable. It's more stable than most putties, right? That are silicone based at least. So you can be pretty confident it's not going to like melt like a plastic. And it's you'll get some heat through it, but not much. It does a pretty decent job of shielding heat. So, to my understanding, maybe someone else out there can correct me on that. Oh, and disclaimer for the contact sheet that we're going to use today. I've never used it before, but I'm going to try my best. So Joe, if you're watching this at some point, hopefully I don't do too bad of a job. But let me know. I'll be sure to chat with you here afterwards in the next few days and see what your thoughts are on how I used it. And I'll definitely have to buy some more for the future because it's going to be a super useful tool that I can afford to use. I know you got some fancy stuff, and I can't buy that stuff right now. Maybe someday, hopefully. I like this card. This is nice. This is going to be good for peeling, like pulling the cooler apart. It's going to have minimal putty contact here and on this set of VRMs, the die. And with this frame, with the back plate, pulling it apart, it's going to feel a lot more solid. So I think it's going to be good for long term. Let's grab the contact paper here. It's funny, I've got like putty everywhere. I swear my desk was like super clean a couple weeks ago. Then it just sort of takes a turn for the worse and gets dirty again. Not dirty. And like somewhat organized, but still organized chaos. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. I can't be the only one with the desks that just like grow stuff on them. By that I mean just stuff like piling up. So this is the Fuji poly contact film. Right now it's got the shiny sides together, and that's how we want it remain for just a moment more here. And we're going to get the cooler set up here. Obviously, you can see a few scratches there. Let's wipe it up a few more times here. Steel Nomad benchmark using 12900 KS. Oh, you got a KS. That's without the... Is that without the integrated graphics? Or is that like the super version of the K? Got me #1 spot on the chart. Nice. That's awesome, man. Yeah, August is not too bad this year. You know, it was pretty warm I'd say a few weeks ago even. Like a month ago it was hot. Really hot outside. There's like forest fire stuff happening still, which I should probably check in and see how those are doing, if they're getting put out or not. That would really suck to have to get evacuated, but obviously you choose that over taking the risk if it comes to it. I don't think they let you stay. I don't think you have a choice when it's at a certain point. I mean, maybe you do. I'd have to look. But I don't think most people would want to stick around for a fire. Okay, we're going to try and cut the contact paper here. I'm going to cut them separately. So I made it a little bit bigger than I need to, but that's okay. So this is some pretty special pressure paper. There is treated sides to both of these sheets. And just gotta make sure I put it the right way. So shiny guide against shiny side for storage, and treated side against treated side for applying pressure. Let's get some tape. We're going to tape them. I'll put that side down first. I'll put this on top of it. This one's a bit longer, and then I'll tape it to the outside here. I think that's going to work. And we're just going to use some packing tape. The Teal Spit says, "Hey Snark, if you're looking for fans that have good consistent performance longevity, honestly recommend just going with Noctua's Industrial PPC. NF-F12 IP67 PWM fans. They can be a little bit noisy at times, but withstand dust, humidity very well, and quiet when set to a reasonable fan curve." So, yeah, I'll have to look into those. for testing purposes, I'm going to be setting fans to a fixed RPM, and I have to figure out, well, see, I might slow them down for burn-in to get like the temperature hot, and then we're gonna have to play around with the RPM. I don't really care about the sound actually, so that wouldn't matter. Yeah, I think this is going to work out pretty good. Nothing on the VRAM. And we're just going to do something pokey and clean. So the tape is definitely not overlapping where the core is, so that's good. I think we've got it for placement. I'm pretty sure. We're gonna try it and see, but I should be able to. Oh yeah. Okay. We're not going to be hooking up the fans at all. Otherwise, you despise, as much as you despise Corsair products, their fan bearings seem to last forever without any issues noticed from personal experience. What GPU am I working on? Does have a vapor chamber. I don't think this is a vapor chamber. This is, I'll have to double check, but this is a Strix 6800. Just the vanilla non-XT version. And yeah, let's see if we can get this lined up. I'm gonna have to tilt it towards myself here. Okay, so I am gonna have to get the fan cables sticking out there. Okay, got that started. You guys figured that's a vapor chamber? It might be. I just hadn't actually looked into that. It's JIS0 bit for these little X bracket screws. I'm just going to get two started initially. Okay, so I'm going to press down evenly. I'll be honest, these screws seem a little bit small of a head. Might swap them out for the same length, same thread, but the bit size up from this. If I'm going to be doing it like, what, 100 times probably? For its service life, maybe more? Probably more. And I'll have to swap them before I start doing full-on tests, so... And just to ensure that these screws aren't critical to for contact, will it's not ideal. They're not. I should have oh, they're starting, never mind. It's fine. It's just the wrong bit size. These are the larger ones. I want that bit size here. But these are obviously different screws though. Okay, that's the card together. Now we're going to take it apart again and see what that contact paper looks like. So we got 11 o'clock. So I'll probably apply conformal, because then I can let that dry overnight. And I can always apply a bit of heat tomorrow if I want to speed up that process. But it'll get room temperature for a while, so that'll be good.
But I'm so frustrated. Hello to my loneliness. I guess that ignorance is bliss. Take me back to before I knew.
Could have sworn these had retainers, but I don't know if I lost them or if they... I'll have to look back at the original video from 5 months ago. It was like March 5th, March 14th, I think. And see if they had a retaining paper or plastic disc or something underneath. Interesting. We might just have to do some work on this card. I'm going to zoom in here. Can you guys... Oh, Born Again, now explain what you're doing here with the Fuji Pressure film. I missed it. I'm sure you're testing the pressure. But to what end? I'm guessing back and forth with testing putty. Watch you guys go. So there's nothing else on the card except for the pressure paper. We're looking at how the core interacts with the cooler. And what's interesting about this, let's zoom in so that you guys can... You see that like slightly pink area? We're not going to touch it because we don't want to play with it, but That pink area right there. What if I go... Can I go further? We're gonna get the tweezers. We're trying to see how flat this thing is. Man, Joe, I really appreciate you giving me some of this stuff. That is super cool of you. Yeah, I would have no way of testing this if you hadn't given me some of it, so... Okay, I can still use the piece that didn't make contact. It looks like I'll be able to salvage most of this sheet, but... This was like this. Sorry, I probably have it turned. I'll look back on the video to see how it was oriented, but I'll be able to confirm that. Do you guys see what I would consider that little marking there? That was there even when I opened the card before. And obviously I wondered like what was going on there, if that was just like some little hotspot thing going on. Well, that's where it's making contact right now. So let's bring this over. If that's too bright, let's see if we can change. It's kind of got like an auto exposure thing going on. But hopefully you guys can see, yeah, that little pink splotch in there. So it's making, man, AMD, what is going on? It's making contact just with that spot. Now, we don't know if it's the die or the cooler. I mean, I think it's probably the die. Most likely. Let's see. Yeah. So I'll have to check the cooler for flatness and the die for flatness. I'll probably do the razor blade trick or something here. Most likely. And I'll have to like figure out what I want to do with this information. Now, Joe also told me I can do like half of it. So what I'll probably do is I'll cut 2 strips and I'll do like contact paper here, contact paper here. We'll skip the center. And then we're gonna, well, yeah, we're gonna press again. Now, if I don't have any paper on the center, it's gonna get closer together and then we'll be able to map out the left and the right side and see what they look like. You're betting the cooler is bubbled or bub and lead. I know what you mean. Bent, warped, not perfectly flat. So there's definitely a couple possibilities there for which one it is, or maybe a combination of both. And that certainly explains that that obvious like mark right there that you guys see. That's a clear sign of like, I mean, the paper picked it up even better, but the fact that we can even see that marking there is kind of cool. Now, I don't know if this is I'm not going to use the sharp side this time because this blade's not brand new anyways, but wow. Crap. That's nuts. Like, I can see it with my unless this is warped at the back. I'm going to say no. And that, obviously this is not an ideal test, right? But that is nuts. So this die is definitely not perfectly flat. So do we do the testing as this card being a factory card the way it is and test with it that way? Where it's always going to make like crushing contact right in the center, and then it's going to be most likely like tapering out thicker layers of paste or phase change with like that designed flaw of contact. Or do we lap the die and or the cooler? I do have the technology for that. I have a diaflat. I think it's, I want to say 250 or is it 125? I have a stainless steel diaflat lapping plate and Naniwa water stones. So I can flatten the water stones and then I'll have to buy smaller stones for it, but I'd be willing to do that maybe. We could lap this flat and take some material off if we had to. I'll have to do some reading on how much I could take off. Or we could leave it as is. But it is like quite the pressure in that like center dot. What do you guys think would be like a better test of thermal interface materials with the flaw, which is what lots of you guys probably with AMD cards are going to experience? Or do we fix it? And I don't know, it could go either way. Like, I think with the flaw, we're getting, well, real world, typical user, which is including myself, experience with like core temperatures and then hotspots being not great on the AMD cards. Let's be honest, the deltas are worse from what you guys have been telling me. And NVIDIA cards, we're getting to that like 10-15 degree delta. I know that changes depending on how many watts you feed the card. Rocky, if you're out there, good point on that. And it does scale from what you're telling me. So, but like the typical users aren't throwing 1,000 watt V-BIOS at their video cards and stuff either. So yeah, what do you guys think? Better for testing with a warped core, testing it that way, or should we lap this thing flat? Can you micro zoom on the flaw? Yes, I can. Let's zoom in. That's as much as I can zoom in. I'll try and take a better picture. Let's see if I can show you guys the wobble, as it were. And I'm going to do this just by, let's focus it here. Something like that, eh? do both test as is, then lap. Oh, like, well, that's, I can't do 100 tests twice. That'll take too long. That fuzz. It's really hard to see, and I should probably have like a light source down here. Let me try getting that for just a moment here. You guys can see where I'm rocking it there, eh? That's the spot on the die. And you can kind of see it there, eh? With the that little flaw. There's like scratches, obviously, but that little spot there. Like, part of me thinks we leave this. I don't know. That's not going to be as accurate of testing. We might have to do some lapping. So I'm going to have to do some reading up on this to figure out how much I could lap. But even if we do lap it, I'll still apply conformal coating to prevent any silicone powder slurry from getting anywhere. So let's let's just go ahead and apply some conformal coating, and then we'll probably call that a night after we do that, and we'll let it dry. I'll probably go hang out with the wife after this. It's pretty late. We'll see if she's even still up or not. The cooler has a pimple for sure, digging the GPU, so it seems. Yeah, that could be too. It could be both. And I would be more inclined to, like, lap the cold plate flat in a way. I'd be willing to do both, though. You know, the flatter that the core is, the better datum point it's going to be. If we leave it to a single point, it can teeter-totter. Depending on how I reassemble the card, tighten the screws, that's going to be inconsistent. That's not going to be good for testing. So we should be lapping both. And that means I'm going to have to do a bunch of reading up on that, because I've never done that before. And I also have to figure out how much I can take off safely. And I need to figure out a few things about that. I don't think I'll be able to get it fully flat before I'm in danger zone with the core, but I could definitely I mean, I was hoping to leave the cooler nickel plated as well, because we do want to test liquid metal. This does pose a challenge, so I'm gonna have to think about that a bit. But let's get the conformal coating. We'll put some on. It'll be fun. Now I just need to find the conformal coating. Give me 2 shakes and a slice. We're gonna coat this in just one moment. Yeah, nice little PC speaker. I was using I brought a couple of those to the LAN party. I had all sorts of stuff there, man. You guys should have seen it. It was fun. I mean, I was playing video games, but I was also troubleshooting people's computers, trying to figure out why they wouldn't post or boot or whatever. Like, anytime you get a group of people together and they move all their heavy towers, we're not talking about like gaming laptops here, like when you're bringing your full rig with you, and you're like bouncing down the road for however far you drove, and some people drove further than others. And let's just say Alberta roads, there's potholes. Anyone from Alberta, you guys will know what I'm talking about. Like, it's not good to have to drive in Alberta with like anything that's got like stiff suspension is even worse. But yeah, so when you start going to a LAN party and trying to like boot up the systems, and just people run into all sorts of issues. There's one guy that he brought his secondary monitor to use as his primary, and it was a gigabyte motherboard. I want to say it was a LG monitor, but that's just off the top of my head. And he couldn't get it to boot, and we were trying everything. Like, we were moving RAM, trying different RAM configurations, and nothing was working until we were getting the one of the BIOS splash screens, and then that it would just show that and it would stop. And so we finally figured out, I remembered vaguely that I've seen forum posts with like gigabyte stuff. If the monitor is asleep, like on, but in the sleep state. And then you turn the tower on. If the motherboard doesn't sense an awake monitor, then it has this like weird thing where it doesn't boot or something past a certain point. Or maybe it was trying to like output on a different monitor because he was using a secondary one. We fixed it by basically turning his monitor off, having the tower off, turning the monitor on, and then turning the tower on, and the monitor would be like in its awake state. The tower would turn on, it would sense that the monitor was there, and then it booted up fine. And this was like after probably 45 minutes of a couple people trying to troubleshoot it, myself included, for him. And after that, he was able to game the whole time. So it worked out good. You guys probably want to see this zoomed in, eh? And maybe focused even. How about that? Born again on a glass sheet is best, and tape down the lightest to the heaviest water. Sandpaper. Seen in YouTube videos. A lot of great ways. Yeah, I mean, I'll probably use lappings or water stones or pieces of them. I can actually use the full size ones. What am I talking about? I don't need the intermediate cooler. I'll be able to. This is good. This is really good. I'll be able to lap this by taking this intermediate heat spreader off. I'll probably just, tape off a bunch of stuff here. And I'll just have it so the die is exposed. And this will have conformal coating on it, obviously, so it'll protect if little dusty particles want to get down around those contacts. And I'll be able to use my full size water stones. We've got everywhere from 400 grit all the way down to, let's see, I think we've got 10,000 or 12,000 grit. And then I could polish it from it's going to be pretty polished from that. So I'd probably leave it at that, I think. We don't want anything getting under the die. So the Born Again says, so the idea with the capped on film is to blanket the cooling and letting the chip warm slightly warmer than the rest, contacting the block so that the more layers of film allows less heat out, suppressing the cooling of the chip. Yeah, it's like, okay, I recently, not so recently, I was testing out a thermal pad. Off the top of my head, I can't remember which one, but it was one of my live streams. And I was applying the pads, and I forgot to remove the plastic protective film on one of the pads. Assembled the card. I did the tests just like I normally do. And then when I took the card back apart, I was like, oh crap, like I forgot to do that. So then I, obviously, like I realized when that happened and realized it wasn't going to be a good test. So I reapplied the pads. Can't remember if I used new ones or not, and took the film off, redid the tests, and it was noticeably cooler. It was a couple degrees at least. think it was more than a couple degrees. Like, off the top of my head, I want to say 5 degrees, something like that, difference between having like a very lightweight film. And I made some general assumptions at the time while I was talking to someone about this with water-cooled card. I made a general assumption of Kapton tape having a similar heat insulating property. Like, I guess low thermal conductivity is another way of thinking about it. But I assumed it was the same as the plastic, which is probably not the case. And made some rough calculations. I measured it with the calipers, and I was like 20 thousandths of an inch. Let me double check here. Or like a layer that was like between 0.15 and 0.2 of a millimeter would be would raise it up 30 degrees, something like that. These are like broad generalizations. I'm probably grossly inaccurate here. And it's something I want to test. But you could basically get different thicknesses of Kapton film online on Amazon. I mean, it wouldn't be super cheap, but if you're really going for an extreme overclock, maybe you're willing to spend the money and experiment and figure this out before I get to it. But yeah, you could tune your VRAM temperature. You could also do it with like a worse performing putty. The goal of using the shims would be to only have to buy one type of putty, and then if you could get some like Kapton film for, if we lucked out, really cheap on Amazon, it would be cheaper than buying 2 different putties. But you can't get a good putty, I don't think, that's going to perform 30 degrees worse. And at least I don't think I would trust the ones that are in that range myself. But hey, up to you what you guys want to put on your own cards for sure. Okay, we are getting somewhere. Getting closer. Also, I'm slowing down because I'm getting kind of, it's that time of night where I'm getting tired. Let's go for the big brush. Yeah, like if you have plastic instead of just putty, if there's putty between the VRAM and the cooler versus putty and like a very thin plastic, the one with the thin plastic is going to perform worse at transferring heat. Now you wouldn't want to use just any plastic, I don't think, but Kapton tape or film is very stable at high temperatures, so I think it would be one of the better materials that you could use. You could also use something solid if you wanted to. I just don't think I would. I would probably opt for a plastic of some sort, and Kapton, to my mind, is the best one for that random purpose that most other people would think is crazy. This is enthusiast level stuff. This is not something most people should play around with the Kapton tape and putty until it's like proven that it's even like working, because I mean, that's a kind of out there idea. I'm sure you guys will agree. You guys want to see what this card looks like here with all this stuff? Let's take a look in a moment here. Just got to wipe up a couple little spots, and then we're ready to zoom in. We'll turn the black light on. Okay, that's nice and starting to firm up. That's good. Just put this out to the side for now. Yeah, that's right. You're trying to keep them from cooling as much as the core. Because on water, 40-90, approximately 1 millimeter gaps, your VRAM's really chilly, which is fine, but you're not going to be able to overclock it like a plus, 1800 window overclock, which would be what, plus 3400 in Linux, according to the folks I've talked to, which would be I think it's Rocal or Rocky, one of the sources. But yeah, there's a few people online talking about it. So all right, let's take a look at this card. I'm going to turn the black light on. We'll turn some of these lights off. Okay, that's kind of weird. This light's not turning off for me, so I'm just going to turn it. Now, we're going to try turning the main light off. It's one of those large, like, ring lights. And yeah, I don't know what you guys think. It's I know it's a little bit awkward to look at there, so we're going to turn the light on so we can at least get the focus right. But that is basically the card. If it's glowing blue, bluish green, that means it's got the conformal coating on it, which we can scrub off tomorrow, any spots that we need to. And I'll take a closer look at this off stream just to make sure. Oh, you know what? I actually see. I mean, this is the whole point of using the black light, to be able to see what you're doing. But let's just apply it there. Right over here. Looks pretty good, eh? Maybe just a smidge more here. That way, when I'm testing shims, liquid metal, anything electrically conductive, or even like lapping the die, that's going to help protect the card from getting anything that's going to short out touching contacts. So, yeah. I think we're going to call that good. We could always apply more tomorrow, another day, if I really needed to. But that's looking pretty good for now. I'm going to turn the main light back on here. I think it looks pretty good though. I'm pretty happy with that. You know what? There's like a little spot right at the bottom left of the die. But I don't think there's anything there that I need to protect against, so I think it's going to be okay. Alright, guys, this was fun. We did some work on the card. We figured out the die is not flat. The cooler, I'll have to double check, it's probably also not flat. And we are going to look into lapping. Do like Alex does. Alex, yeah. Oh no, you blinded me with ultraviolet rays, bro. Fun times. Yeah, I'll have to get into soldering and see what those guys are using. It's going to be fun. We're going to get into all sorts of stuff. Like, yeah, I mostly focus on thermal interface materials, but we can, and we're going to keep doing that. But we can gradually include a few more, you know, like video card, CPU, just like computer hardware stuff. I'm not going to go stray too far from my current niche, but we'll see. It'll be a gradual thing, nothing too crazy. I hope you guys have a good night. We will. I'm gonna research options for lapping and 6800, and we'll see if we can get this a little bit flatter, just so it's not going to teeter-totter on us and create inaccuracies that way. It would be better if we can at least, even if we can get a portion of the center of the core nice and flat, same with the cooler, so that when they meet, it wants to remain in a fixed flat position rather than having that like kind of small single point in the middle. So Born Again, do you do the ultraviolet light with the Grizzly conformal coat? No, so I've never bought the Grizzly stuff, the TG Shield. I'm sure it's great stuff. I just haven't bothered with it. I'm using the only one I land to for now is and this is not sponsored. No one sponsors me. This is MG Chemicals 422C silicone / I want to say acrylic hybrid conformal coating, and it doesn't cure with UV. It either cures at room temperature over 24 hours, or you can apply heat and cure it much faster depending on what temperature you take it to. I think as fast as like 15 minutes or something. But it remains semi-flexible. It is mostly resilient to solvents or resistant, but it does break down over time. You can clean it up with isopropyl. There's other ones you can use. But after scrubbing it, you'll actually get it completely off. If you really need to get it off, you can. I believe it can be soldered through. I'll have to double check on that. But there's like a good spec sheet on it on MG Chemicals website. So I really like it. I bought it on Amazon. This is 55 milliliters. I think it cost me, I want to say, what, $20, something like that, $25 Canadian. That's like 18 US. It came with a couple brushes, and then I bought a bag of like 100 of these horsehair flux brushes. So yeah, it's good stuff. It's clear, so you can see it when it's in focus. And yeah, it just leaves like a shiny film. There, you guys are looking at the stream. You can see my mouse going over there. Right on. Cool. Well, you guys have a good night. I will catch you guys on the next one. I'll also get which I haven't done yet, I'll get the test card. I'll throw it on the test bench. We'll start testing those drift ice pads, the non-LT ones, and get that going throughout the night here. And yeah, thanks again for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Sorry, you wanted to see the ultraviolet. Let me let's turn this off here. And we're going to zoom in, see if you can get a nice picture. We're going to try 20%. This is a little... I think that's going to be as good as we can get for the lighting to focus. Otherwise, if I just go pure blacklight, it doesn't look very good, I don't think. So yeah, if you want to get a picture of the card, by all means. There's better pictures on my live stream feed. If you look at some of my older ones, there's one where I was applying conformal coating to a different card, so there's some, yeah. Anyways, guys, that is it for the night. Thanks again for stopping by, and if you haven't joined the Discord, feel free if you'd like. If not, I'll see you on here on YouTube, so you guys have a great night.
I like to be educated, but I'm so frustrated. Hello to my loneliness. I guess that ignorance is